Welcome in and thanks for joining us for another edition of TPI Talk. My name is Scott Hardy, and today we have the pleasure of interviewing another representative with Bass, Mr. Carey Barrett. Carey, thanks for joining us today.
You bet. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so again, we're here. This is the kickoff day for the Elite Bass Series tournament here taking place on Lake Martin the first day, and there's been a lot of action so far with the jump start this morning. So could you just discuss a little bit about your role with the organization, and what does that impact how things happen?
Sure. Well, we're part of the television crew, so when we come in, we're the camera guys, so we're going to be out there on the water or flying drones, that kind of stuff. So we travel with the Elite Series all year long, so we get to know these guys, and that's really our function is we're camera guys, and we're sending our live signal back to the Bass studio for Bassmaster Live on the .com site.
Yeah, and we were talking a little bit before we got started. You've had a pretty exciting career and been able to follow a lot of different things throughout the sport. Could you just discuss some of the projects that you've been involved in and how ultimately you ended up with Bass?
Well, I started about 25 years ago. I went to work for a guy named Jerry McKinnis, who had a fishing show on ESPN, and that's kind of how we got started. And back in those days, we did a show on Saturday mornings for ESPN called ESPN Outdoors with Tommy Sanders, who's the host now of Bassmaster Live. So that's kind of where that all started for me. Jerry had his show, The Fishing Hole, and then over the years we've done lots of other outdoor type programs, and that's primarily what we do. We do the Steel Timber Sports Series, which is that lumberjack competition. Lots of fishing, half-hour or hour fishing shows, more lifestyle type shows that we've done. And we've started doing powerboat racing in Key West, the Reno Air races, that kind of stuff. So the big chunk of the pie is outdoor programming, primarily fishing. But we do get to mix it up with some of the other things.
Specifically talking about the sport of fishing, how do you think the actual visualization of the sport and some of the other outdoor events that have taken place, how do you think that's impacted the popularity of the events?
Well, we've always had probably a good core group of, like, say, let's just Bassmaster. There's always been that core group of Bassmaster magazine readers. Okay, so those guys have always been on board with fishing. And then when the television show came along, of course, you'd have to wait a few weeks to see, the edited show. So that, once you went to television, you start to bring in a bigger audience. And now that we're doing live, I think we're getting a lot more people just because of the social network part of it and things like that. That's really, in any industry, I think the social network part of this is really expanding and bringing in lots of younger viewers for us.
Yes, sir. And again, we're here with Carey Barrett with Bass, someone who has been responsible for providing you the visual content that you see week in and week out. But Carey, we were talking to before, and I'd heard some stories about your previous days of filming from a helicopter, and then you said we don't really do that anymore. We use a drone. And so could you talk a little bit about the way technology has impacted the way you guys do things as well?
Sure. Well, as far as helicopters are concerned, one of my favorite sayings was, the best day I could ever have is being in a helicopter. So that was always fun, and it was it was just cool to shoot out of a helicopter. But we'd only do that on the final day. Now that drones have come along, that really changed the how we cover the anglers and how we get to show a little bit more of the actual fishing day, because the drones aren't so intrusive like a big giant helicopter would be. Plus just the cost of flying in a helicopter was so let's just say $1,500 an hour for a helicopter. Well, you can buy a drone now for that kind of money and have 4K quality. So that has really changed, and as far as how we cover the anglers, we actually get to see more of them now versus what it was like in a helicopter.
I got you. So being involved in the production end for almost 25 years now, I'm sure you have some great stories and some fond memories. Could you maybe elaborate on a couple that maybe stand out the most to you?
Well, I think for me, some of the most exciting moments are when these, like say you might have a let's just take Jordan Lee, who won the Classic last year. You know, we saw him come through the College Series. And yeah, there you go. We saw him come through the College Series, and then he got out of college, and then he gets into the Elite Series. He qualifies for it, and then 3 years later, he's a Bassmaster Classic champion. I think that's pretty exciting. And then you got guys like Kevin Van Dam, who everyone knows Kevin's name, but he had a little bit of a slow time. And we actually heard some guys say, well, is Kevin done? Well, no. Kevin came roaring back, and had, and he's had victories since. So seeing those types of things, those types of victories, and seeing rookies come on to the elite scene and sharing, starting to know them and spend time with them, to us that's exciting. And I will say one of the most exciting things that I was ever a part of actually happened at a Classic probably 10 years ago in the Carolinas. And this was back when the show American Chopper was big. And I remember watching that show when it first came out. And they actually brought the host of the show, which at that time was Fish Fishburne. So this has been a number of years ago. But they brought him in on the back of one of the choppers, and that the stadium, the arena they absolutely just blew the roof off the place. They heard the motorcycles start up, and in they came. So, just something unusual like that was exciting for us too. And to be a part of it and watching it happen was pretty cool.
And so we had the opportunity to speak with Eric Lopez, who's the director of operations or event operations for Bass, and so he kind of went over his schedule and how things happen for them. So when do you actually get into the site or the selected site that's hosting the event, and how does your schedule go about?
Well, we would usually roll in on like either late Tuesday or Wednesday, and then we would start getting our camera equipment ready and running all of our cables and testing our equipment prior to the Thursday weigh-in. So really it would either start for us on Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on how far away we're going and which crew guys are going to go. So we have a great freelance core group of camera guys, and they'll roll in today, Thursday. They'll be here in time for the weigh-in. I'll start to shoot the weigh-in today, and that's kind of how we just slowly ramp up. We've got all of our gear in a trailer, and we just roll it out. It's just old hand to us. We're used to doing it, roll in, but it's always fun to kick off the new year and see everybody again for the first time.
Yes, sir. And so that's what I wanted to get your take on it as well. After you've been in the off season, I guess, for a few months. Not necessarily you, but the Elite Series has for a few months. As you get ready to get things kicked off, is there any other things from a preparation standpoint that you guys have to do, or is it just that you've been doing it so long, or you're kind of ready to go once it begins?
Well, it's just after the season's over. Of course, these cameras and the camera guys, it's hard to be out there on the water and when conditions are bad. So that can be hard on the equipment that you have, of course. So you just got to stay on top of getting everything ready to go for the next season. So in the like December and January and things like that, that's when we have time to make sure all of our sound equipment's good, all the cameras are ready to roll out for the season. So that's kind of how that prep stuff goes. And then once the first event kicks off, we're ready to roll out of the trailer and go to work.
Well, I've sincerely enjoyed having the opportunity to talk to you on and off the air. Very interesting story and details of how you got involved in the production work here. But again, this has been Carey Barrett with Bass. And Carey, we again sincerely appreciate you joining us today.
Yes, sir. Glad to be here.
Absolutely. Well, again, this has been another edition of TPI Talk. My name is Scott Hardy. See you next time.